I never thought I would actually do it, but there I was staring at the glowing screen, my finger hovering over the enter key like it was some kind of gateway into another world. The ad had popped up on my feed 2 weeks ago, a strange little banner wedged between videos and meaningless chatter, promising something outrageous. "Become the girl you always wanted to be," it read. At first I laughed, scrolling past it like you would with any scam, but the words stuck in my head, echoing at odd moments like a whisper. I wasn't someone who ever claimed I wanted to be a girl, at least not out loud, but the thought lingered like an itch I couldn't quite scratch. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe boredom, maybe a hidden part of myself I never dared explore. Whatever the reason, I found myself back on the site again and again, reading every detail. It wasn't selling makeup kits or silly clothes. It was an actual sign-up, a program of sorts. The language was vague, just enough to entice. Complete transformation guaranteed, immersive and permanent experience. Discover who you truly are. It sounded like science fiction, but every testimonial I clicked felt raw and personal, like someone had poured their diary onto the screen. I knew better than to believe everything I read online. Yet late at night, when my room was quiet and the hum of my computer filled the space, I kept coming back. My heart would race each time I hovered over the registration form. Name, age, consent boxes lined up like little checkpoints. They didn't even ask for money up front, which made it feel both safer and scarier. What was the catch? I think what pushed me over the edge wasn't the idea of becoming a girl forever, but rather the thought of stepping out of my skin and seeing life differently. I had spent years walking around feeling half there, like I was watching the world instead of living in it. Maybe this was my chance to shake everything up. And so, with one final deep breath, I hit enter. Nothing happened right away. I half expected fireworks or a congratulatory email, but the screen just blinked, loading for a long, tense moment before showing me a confirmation code. A message appeared at the bottom. "Welcome to your new life. Please check your mailbox for instructions." My heart lurched as I realized it meant my actual, physical mailbox, not my email. The following day was unbearable. Every creak of the postbox outside made me jump. When the mail finally came, I tore through the pile with trembling fingers until I found it, a plain envelope with no return address, just my name scrawled across the front in looping handwriting. Inside was a single folded sheet of paper. "Congratulations, you have signed up to be a girl. Report to the listed address on Friday at 8 p.m. sharp. Bring nothing but yourself." There was an address at the bottom, a place downtown I vaguely recognized, but had never been to. No company name, no contact information. My hands shook as I read it over again. It could have been some elaborate prank. It could have been dangerous. But something in me knew this was different. It was reckless, yes, but my curiosity burned hotter than my fear. The days leading up to Friday dragged by like slow-motion film. I could hardly focus at work, barely ate, and avoided calls from friends. I was terrified someone would look at me and just know that they would see the envelope in my pocket, the decision heavy on my shoulders. Every time I caught my reflection, I studied my face harder than usual. Would I look different? Would this erase me, or would it uncover me? Friday night arrived before I was ready. I stood in front of the mirror in my plainest clothes, debating whether I should dress nice or casual, whether it even mattered. The paper had said bring nothing but yourself, and I clung to those words like scripture. My heart hammered as I stepped outside, the cool evening air cutting sharp against my skin, as if the world knew what was about to happen. The address led me to a nondescript building tucked between two taller complexes. It looked abandoned from the outside, windows dusty and dark, no sign to announce what it was. But the door was unlocked, and when I pushed it open, a dimly lit hallway stretched before me. I hesitated, looking over my shoulder as if someone might be watching, but the street was quiet. With one more deep breath, I stepped inside. The hallway seemed to go on forever, my footsteps echoing. At the far end, a faint light glowed under a door, and as I approached, I heard the low hum of machinery, steady and pulsing. My hand hovered over the handle. This was the moment. I could still turn back, walk away, pretend none of this ever happened. But the thought of returning to my old life, to that half-empty shell I had been dragging around, felt unbearable. I pressed the handle down and opened the door. The room inside was nothing like the dusty hallway. It was bright, impossibly clean, with smooth white walls that seemed to glow on their own. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by panels of blinking lights, like something out of a futuristic lab. The hum I'd heard grew louder here, vibrating faintly in my chest. I wasn't alone. A woman stood by the console, her presence so commanding I froze in the doorway. She was tall, dressed in a tailored coat that shimmered faintly under the lights, and her expression was calm, as if she had been expecting me for years. "You're right on time," she said, her voice steady, almost soothing. "Please come in. We've been waiting for you." "We?" The word sent a shiver through me. But before I could ask, the door clicked shut behind me, sealing with a hiss.
My throat went dry.
The woman gestured to the platform. "You've already signed the contract, so the procedure is ready. You'll be safe. I promise." Procedure. My knees wobbled at the word. "Wait, this is real? You're actually going to change me?" Her eyes softened, though her tone remained professional. "Not change. Reveal. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want this. Something inside you brought you to us. And now, we'll help you see who you truly are." Her words pierced through me like an arrow. I wanted to argue, to tell her I hadn't really meant it, that I just signed up on a whim, but deep down I knew she was right. Something had been calling me toward this moment. I stepped slowly toward the platform. The floor was smooth and cool beneath my shoes, and as I stood in the center, a ring of light circled around me, scanning my body with a gentle hum. My pulse thundered in my ears. The woman tapped something on the console. "This will feel unusual," she said. "Some describe it as warmth, others as a gentle pulling. But it won't hurt. Just breathe and let it happen." The hum intensified. The air around me shimmered faintly, like heat waves rising off asphalt. At first it was just tingling, pins and needles dancing across my skin, but then the sensation deepened, wrapping me in waves that pressed inward and outward at once. My chest tightened as if my ribs were expanding, my bones humming with vibration. I gasped, grabbing at the air, but the platform seemed to hold me steady, like invisible hands guiding me through the storm. My reflection appeared on a panel before me, a mirror made of light, and I watched as subtle shifts began to ripple across my features. My jaw softened, cheeks rounding, eyes widening as if someone was carefully sculpting me from clay. My skin smoothed, blemishes fading like erased pencil marks. I couldn't look away, even as my heart begged me to run. It was me, yet not me, like I was seeing the version of myself I had never been allowed to show. A lump formed in my throat. "Is this really me?" I whispered. The woman's voice floated gently behind me. "It's always been you. We're just removing the mask." The warmth spread downward, through my shoulders, my arms, my hands. They narrowed delicately, fingers looking almost elegant as I flexed them in disbelief. My frame shifted, my balance subtly changing, and I realized my body was aligning in ways I couldn't quite understand yet. The air smelled faintly of ozone and flowers, as if the room itself was breathing with me. Tears blurred my vision. Not out of pain, but out of sheer shock. I had expected some costume, some artificial disguise, but this was deeper. It felt real, undeniably real, as though the universe itself was redrawing my lines. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the humming slowed. The lights dimmed to a soft glow. My knees buckled, and I stumbled forward, catching my reflection again in the panel. I couldn't breathe. The person staring back wasn't the same one who had walked in. My hair was longer, brushing softly past my jaw. My eyes glimmered with a brightness I'd never seen in them before. My face, it was beautiful in a way that felt both alien and familiar, like I was looking at a long-lost twin who had been trapped inside me all along. The woman approached, her footsteps quiet. She placed a hand gently on my shoulder. "Take a moment," she said softly. "Let yourself see. You're safe." I touched my face with trembling hands, tracing the new curves of my cheeks, the delicate slope of my nose. My voice caught in my throat when I tried to speak, and when I finally managed a sound, it came out higher, lighter, filled with a musical lilt I didn't recognize. "Oh my God," I whispered, my own voice unfamiliar, yet strangely right. The woman smiled faintly. "Welcome," she said. "This is just the beginning." I couldn't stop staring at myself. Every blink, every slight shift in expression felt like rediscovering a stranger I was supposed to have known my whole life. My reflection tilted its head, lips parting, eyes shimmering with something between wonder and fear. I touched the glass as if it could tell me who I was supposed to be now. The woman stayed close, patient, as though she had seen countless people stand where I stood. "You'll need time," she said, her tone almost maternal. "The mind often lags behind the body. It's natural to feel disoriented." Disoriented was too small a word. My heart was racing, my breathing shallow. I half expected to wake up in bed, sweaty and confused, but the cold, smooth floor beneath my feet told me this was no dream. I was still me, but not the same me who had walked into this building. "Why me?" I finally asked, my voice trembling. The sound of it startled me again, so different from the voice I'd known all my life. Her expression softened. "Because you signed up. That's all it takes. We don't choose, you choose. And in choosing, you give us permission to unlock what you've hidden." I shook my head, tears welling in my new eyes. But I didn't mean it. I didn't know what I was asking for. I thought it was just a game? A fantasy? She finished for me, her voice calm but firm. "You'd be surprised how many think the same. But somewhere deep inside, you wanted this. Curiosity is never random. It's the truth knocking." Her words pierced something I didn't want to admit. I had laughed when I first saw the ad. I had told myself it was silly. But I couldn't deny how many times I'd imagined life on the other side, what it would feel like to be seen differently, to carry myself differently. Maybe I had been lying to myself longer than I realized. The woman moved to the console again. "Your transformation is stable. But you're not finished yet. We'll need to guide you through the next stages, adjustments, training, integration. You can't just walk out of here and expect the world to understand." Panic surged in my chest. Training? Wait. I thought this was it. I thought I'd just go home like this. She shook her head slowly. "If you walk out now, you'll collapse. Your mind will fight your body until one of them breaks.
We've seen it happen.
You need to learn balance, or else this gift becomes a curse." The words chilled me. I glanced back at my reflection, and suddenly the beauty I had admired felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. What if I couldn't keep this? What if I wasn't strong enough to carry it? As if reading my fear, the woman extended her hand.
"Come."
"There are others here. You don't have to go through this alone." Others. The words sparked both dread and hope. I hesitated, then placed my delicate new hand in hers. Her grip was firm, grounding me as she led me through another door at the side of the chamber. The hallway beyond was warmer, lined with soft golden lights instead of sterile white. The air smelled faintly of lavender. My bare arms tingled as we walked, the faint swish of my longer hair brushing my neck with every step. We entered a wide room, and I froze. There were people, 5 of them, scattered in conversation, laughter, and quiet reflection. All of them girls. Different ages, different styles, but each with a certain glow about them, a radiance that told me they too had once stood trembling on that platform. One of them looked up and smiled at me, and my chest lurched with recognition. She wasn't just any girl. Her posture, her eyes, the way she held herself gave her away. She had been like me, once. "Another newcomer," the woman announced softly, guiding me forward. "Everyone, this is..." She paused, then looked at me.
"Well,
what's your name now?" My breath caught. My name. The one I had carried all my life suddenly felt heavy, like it didn't fit anymore. I opened my mouth, but the sound snagged in my throat. Did I have to choose right now? The girl who had smiled at me stepped closer, her own voice light and encouraging. "Don't rush it. I didn't know mine for weeks. You'll feel it when it's right." Her kindness nearly broke me. My knees wobbled as I sank into one of the chairs, the softness cradling me like a sigh. I wrapped my arms around myself, still overwhelmed by every detail of my new body. The other girls gathered slowly, introducing themselves one by one. There was Alina, graceful and tall, her laughter quick and easy. Juniper, shy but radiant, who admitted she still practiced speaking her name out loud when she was alone. Maris, whose sharp eyes seemed to see right through me, though her smile was gentle. And two younger ones, barely older than me, who stuck close together like sisters. Each of their stories was different, yet familiar. They had all signed up just like me. Some confessed they had hesitated for years before finding the courage. Others said it had felt like fate, like they had been led here by invisible hands. And as they spoke, a strange calm began to settle inside me. I wasn't alone. I wasn't the only one caught in this whirlwind of fear and awe. But when I glanced at my reflection in the polished glass of the window, a new question gripped me. If this was real, if this was truly my new self, then who was I supposed to be now? The night in that place stretched on without any clocks or windows to measure time. It felt suspended, as if the world outside had ceased to exist. I sat among the others, listening, trying to absorb their words, though my thoughts were still a storm. Every gesture I made, every time I brushed my hair from my face or folded my smaller hands in my lap, reminded me I was no longer who I had been hours ago. The woman who had guided me in stood at the edge of the group. "Your adjustment begins now," she said, her tone soft but certain. "We will not force anything. But if you wish to survive this change, you must learn to live inside it fully." Alina leaned closer to me, whispering with a grin. "That means the training. It's not as scary as it sounds. Mostly practice. Talking, moving, feeling. Becoming comfortable in your skin." Juniper added, her voice barely above a murmur. "The hard part isn't the body. It's the mirror in your mind." Her words landed heavier than I expected. I had seen my reflection, but in my head I still carried the old me, the weight of who I had always been. Each new movement felt foreign, like I was borrowing someone else's life. The woman clapped her hands lightly. "First exercise." She brought us to a row of tall mirrors along one wall. My stomach dropped at the sight. It was one thing to glimpse myself accidentally in a panel of glass. It was another to stand deliberately before a mirror, exposed and unflinching. "Look," she instructed. "See yourself without turning away." The others stood easily, though I noticed their small hesitations, the way they adjusted their shoulders or smoothed their hair. When it was my turn, I froze. My reflection stared back with wide, frightened eyes, my lips pressed thin as though I was holding in a scream. I reached up and touched the mirror. The girl on the other side followed perfectly, her delicate fingers matching mine. Tears swelled in my eyes. "That's not me," I whispered, but the sound was a lie the second it left my mouth. Maris, the sharp-eyed girl, stepped closer, folding her arms. "It is you. The sooner you accept it, the sooner you stop tearing yourself apart." Her bluntness stung, but deep down I knew she wasn't wrong. My heart pounded as I forced myself to keep looking, to memorize every detail. The slope of my neck, the subtle curve at my waist, the way my hair caught the light like threads of silk. Something cracked inside me then, not completely, not enough to feel whole, but enough for a sliver of acceptance to slip through. The woman nodded.
"Good.
Now, voice." I turned, startled. "Voice." "You've already heard it," she said. "But you must learn to claim it. Speak to us as her. Let go of the weight of before." I hesitated, throat tight. My old voice, deep and familiar, clung to my memory like a ghost. To replace it felt like betraying myself. But when I spoke, the sound that left me was light, lilting, trembling with fear, but undeniably mine now. "Hello," I managed, the single word carrying more weight than I ever thought possible. The others smiled. Juniper even clapped softly. A warmth stirred in my chest, small but real. The exercises continued. Walking across the room, learning balance in new hips and a softened center of gravity. Speaking sentences aloud, listening as my voice cracked and steadied like a bird testing its wings. Gestures, posture, even breathing differently, as if every part of me needed to be relearned. At times I wanted to crumble, to sink into the floor and scream for my old life back, no matter how empty it had felt. At other moments, a quiet joy surged in me, fleeting but powerful, as if I had touched the edge of something truer than anything I'd known. Hours, or maybe days, it was impossible to tell, passed like this. Slowly, I began to notice changes not just in my body, but in the way the others looked at me. Less like a newcomer, more like one of them. But with every step forward, shadows of doubt lingered. Late that night, when the others slept in their cots, I crept back to the mirror. My reflection waited for me, eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice shaking. The girl in the glass didn't answer. She just stared back, waiting for me to decide. Sleep never came that night. I lay on the thin cot, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint breathing of the others around me. Their presence should have been comforting, but my mind refused to rest. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my reflection, shifting and unsteady, like water disturbed by ripples. By morning, or what I assumed was morning, since light seeped faintly through hidden vents, I felt hollow and restless. When we gathered again in the main room, I struggled to keep my hands from shaking. The woman noticed. She always noticed. "You doubt yourself," she said gently, though it sounded less like a question and more like a statement of fact. I wanted to deny it, but the words slipped out before I could stop them. What if I don't belong here? What if I made a mistake? The room went still. Alina frowned, Juniper looked down at her hands, and even Maris's sharp gaze softened slightly. The woman approached me slowly. "Every one of them asked that same question," she said. "It is part of the process. Doubt is a shadow. But you must decide whether you will let it consume you." Her words stirred a strange frustration inside me. I didn't want philosophy. I wanted certainty. I wanted someone to tell me this was the right choice, that I wouldn't regret it forever. But no one could. Our next training exercise was meant to be about social interaction, practicing introducing ourselves, speaking casually, learning to carry confidence in everyday words. But I stumbled over every sentence. My voice cracked, my posture sagged, and I felt like an imposter parroting lines that weren't mine. When my turn ended, I fled to the corner of the room, cheeks burning. Maris followed me. "You can't hide forever," she said, leaning against the wall. "This isn't about perfection. It's about living. And living means messing up." I bit my lip, fighting tears. "You make it look easy." Her expression darkened, though not unkindly. "It wasn't. You didn't see me when I first came here. I hated myself so much I almost quit the program. But quitting doesn't take you back. It just leaves you broken in between. Do you want that?" Her bluntness hit me like a slap, but it also forced me to face something I had avoided. There was no going back. Even if I begged them to reverse everything, I could never unsee what I had seen in the mirror. That image, that possibility, would haunt me forever. The realization both terrified and relieved me. Later, while the others practiced conversation with each other, I slipped into the side hall again. My reflection was waiting in the mirror, just as restless as I was. This time, I studied her closely. The girl looked scared, yes, but not weak. Her eyes carried the same storm I felt inside, but beneath it there was a flicker of determination. I reached out, touching the glass. "If you're me," I whispered, "then I have to try. I can't let us fall apart." The reflection didn't answer, but somehow, the silence felt like agreement. That evening, the woman gathered us in a circle. "Tomorrow, you'll be tested. Not by me, but by the world outside." The word struck me like lightning. "Outside," I blurted, my voice breaking. "Already?" She nodded calmly. "Your training is not complete, but you must face reality. Only then will you know what you're truly ready for." My stomach nodded. The thought of stepping back into the city, of strangers' eyes falling on me in this new form, sent waves of dread through me. What if they saw right through me? What if they laughed? What if they knew I didn't belong? And yet, another part of me, buried under the fear, felt a spark of excitement. The idea of walking freely, of being seen as her, made my chest ache with longing. That night, I didn't look in the mirror. I didn't want to see the fear in my eyes again. Instead, I lay awake, imagining tomorrow. Would I finally feel like I belonged? Or would the outside world tear this fragile new identity apart before it even had a chance to live? The following morning felt heavier than any day before. The woman woke us early, her voice calm but firm, and handed each of us a set of clothes. They weren't costumes, not training uniforms, just simple everyday outfits, jeans, a blouse, a light jacket. Ordinary. But to me, they felt extraordinary. I traced my fingers over the fabric, as if it were fragile glass. When I pulled the clothes on, my body shifted in ways that startled me. The jeans hugged my hips differently, the blouse hung softer across my chest, the sleeves brushing my smaller wrists. Even tying my shoes felt like a new act. My balance shifted slightly forward, my center unfamiliar. When I stood before the mirror, my breath caught. For the first time, I looked not like someone in the middle of a transformation, but like a girl ready to step outside into the real world. It was subtle, unassuming, but that's what made it powerful. The woman studied each of us in silence before nodding. Today you will walk among them. You will speak, move, breathe as yourselves. The world will not know what you were before, unless you tell them. My heart thundered. The idea was exhilarating and terrifying at once. We left the building together, 6 of us in a small group, led by the woman. The air outside felt sharper than I remembered, as if every molecule was different. People moved along the sidewalks, unaware of the storm inside me. Every step felt monumental. My hips swayed slightly, unpracticed but natural. My longer hair tickled my cheek in the breeze. I wanted to shrink, to disappear into the pavement, but I forced myself to keep walking. Our first stop was a small cafe, the kind of place where no one looks twice at strangers. But when the woman told us to go inside on our own, my knees nearly gave out. Alina gave me a reassuring smile. Breathe. Just order something simple. Coffee, tea. You'll be fine. One by one, the others slipped in, voices rising softly as they greeted the barista. When it was my turn, I froze at the door, staring at the warm light spilling out. My reflection flashed in the glass window, her reflection, and I felt like the world was holding its breath with me. Finally, I stepped inside. The smell of roasted coffee beans enveloped me, grounding me in the ordinary. A man in line glanced at me, then looked away without hesitation, as though I was just another girl waiting for a drink. My chest tightened with relief so intense it nearly brought me to tears. When I reached the counter, the barista smiled politely. "What can I get for you?" My voice wavered, but I forced the words out. "A tea, please. Chamomile." It sounded small, but it came out smooth, steady enough. The barista didn't flinch, didn't tilt their head, didn't give me any sign that I was out of place. Just a nod and a receipt. As I stepped aside to wait, my hands shook, but not from fear anymore. From exhilaration. I had spoken. I had been seen and accepted. When my tea arrived, I carried it carefully to the table where the others sat. They smiled knowingly, and I realized they had all felt the same terror, the same relief. But outside, the challenge grew harder. Every stranger's glance made me second-guess myself. Did they know? Could they tell? My mind clung to every detail, my voice, my walk, even the way I held my cup. Yet no one stopped me. No one questioned. At one point, we passed a shop window, and my reflection caught me again. For the first time, I didn't look at her like a stranger. I looked at her like someone I might one day become comfortable with. The woman called us back before evening, gathering us in the quiet hall. "You survived," she said simply, but her eyes glimmered with something like pride. "Now you know. The world will not stop for you. It will simply continue, and you must decide how you wish to walk in it." I clutched my cup of tea, now lukewarm, and realized something I hadn't dared admit before. I wanted this. Not just the reflection, not just the transformation. I wanted the life that came with it. But as the thought settled, a darker question crept into the back of my mind. If I embraced this fully, if I chose to stay as her forever, what would happen to the person I had been before? Would he disappear completely? Would anyone even remember him? The answer scared me more than the outside world ever could. That night, back inside the building's quiet safety, the teacup still warm in my memory, I found myself spiraling. I sat on the edge of my cot, staring at my hands, so slender now, the nails smooth and rounded. They didn't look like mine. Every movement was graceful in a way I hadn't earned. The others seemed calm, even energized from the day's outing. They chatted about how natural it had felt to order food, to walk unnoticed among strangers. Alina laughed about how a man had held the door open for her, without hesitation. Juniper whispered that someone had complimented her earrings. But I couldn't join in. My mind was locked on the ghost of who I had been. He felt close and distant at once, like a shadow pressed against the walls of my skull. What would he think if he saw me now? Would he resent me? Would he feel betrayed? I curled inward, arms hugging my knees, a sob catching in my throat. For the first time since the transformation, I didn't want to see a mirror. I didn't want confirmation that he was gone. The woman noticed, as always. She approached quietly, kneeling beside me. "You're grieving," she said softly.
The word startled me.
Grieving? Yes, that was it. I wasn't just afraid. I was mourning.
Her voice was steady.
People think transformation is only about joy, but it is also about loss. You are bearing the life you had before, even if it never fit you. And grief is natural. Her words unlocked something in me, and I cried harder, shaking, the sound breaking high in my throat. She didn't hush me, didn't scold me, just placed a steady hand on my back until the storm passed. When I finally pulled back, eyes swollen, I whispered, "What if I forget him? What if I forget everything?" She shook her head slowly. "You won't forget. You'll carry him with you. He brought you here. He had the courage to sign up, even if he didn't understand why. You don't erase him. You honor him by becoming whole." Her words settled in my chest like fragile glass. I wanted to believe them. The next day, training resumed. We practiced voices again, but this time, the woman gave us sentences to speak that cut closer to the heart. Phrases like, "I belong here. I am real. This is who I am." When it was my turn, my voice trembled on the first attempt. "I belong here." The words felt foreign, like a costume too big for me. But with each repetition, the sound steadied. By the 10th try, I almost believed it. Later, Maris pulled me aside. "You think too much about who you were," she said, her tone direct but not unkind. I did the same. I kept clinging to a version of myself that wasn't working. But the truth? She was waiting. Always waiting. That's what you need to see. Her intensity unsettled me, but deep down, I knew she was right. That evening, when the others drifted off to sleep, I finally dared to face the mirror again. My reflection gazed back with the same stormy eyes, but something had shifted. She didn't look like a stranger anymore. She looked like someone caught mid-journey, unfinished, uncertain, but real. I pressed my hand against the glass. "I don't want to lose him," I whispered, voice shaking. "But I think I want to find you more." For the first time, I thought I saw the reflection smile. The days blurred together after that. Training, reflection, small trips outside where we blended among the crowd like threads in fabric. Each time, I felt myself slipping further into her skin, her walk, her voice. At first it felt like play acting, but slowly, frighteningly, it began to feel natural. Too natural. And that was the problem. I lay awake one night, listening to the hum of distant machines in the building, heart pounding with a thought I couldn't shake. What if I woke up one morning and couldn't even remember who I had been? My old name already felt heavy on my tongue, like a word from a forgotten language. My old reflection was slipping further and further away, until I wondered if he was already gone. The thought made me bolt upright. I couldn't breathe. I stumbled down the hall toward the mirror, desperate. When I saw her, me, I pressed both palms against the glass. Stop, I whispered hoarsely, tears burning my eyes. Stop taking everything away. The reflection only stared back, calm and patient, as if waiting for me to accept the truth. Behind me, footsteps echoed softly. Juniper appeared, her small frame wrapped in a blanket, eyes sleepy but kind. You can't fight it forever, she murmured. I shook my head, trembling. But if I let go, he's gone. No one will remember him. Not even me. Juniper stepped closer, her voice trembling with her own truth. I used to feel the same. I thought I was betraying the boy my family loved. But I realized he was just the shell, the seed. He existed so I could exist. And he's not gone. He's part of me. Always. Her words made my throat ache. A part of me wanted to believe, but fear still gnawed at me like teeth. The woman gathered us the next morning for something different. You've walked in the world, she said, her gaze sweeping across us. Now you must choose how you walk within yourselves. This decision cannot be forced. But once you make it, there is no turning back. My heart stuttered.
A choice.
We were each led into separate rooms, small and bare except for a chair and, of course, a mirror. The silence was unbearable. I sat there, staring at her, my reflection waiting patiently.
Tears welled again.
I don't know if I can do this, I whispered. I don't know if I can let him go. The reflection tilted her head in the glass, eyes glimmering with something that looked like compassion. I thought of the cafe, the man who glanced at me and saw only a girl. I thought of my trembling voice saying, I belong here. I thought of Juniper's confession, of Maris's blunt truth, of the way my body no longer felt foreign but almost right. And then I thought of him, the boy who had carried years of quiet emptiness, who had signed up on a whim, never knowing he was signing himself away. He had been lonely, restless, half there. And yet, he had been brave enough to press enter. My chest cracked with grief, but also gratitude. I pressed my hand to the mirror again. Thank you, I whispered through the tears, for bringing me here, for letting me become her. Something shifted, not in the glass, not in the room, but inside me. The grief was still there, but softer, no longer tearing me apart. The reflection's eyes seemed brighter, steadier, as if she had been waiting for me to say those words. When the woman returned, I was still crying, but my tears were different now. Not just of loss, but of release. She studied me carefully, then nodded. You've chosen. I swallowed hard, my voice breaking but clear.
Yes.
I want to stay. I want to be her. The words felt final, binding. And yet, as I said them, a strange peace settled over me. For the first time, I wasn't just watching the transformation. I was choosing it. After the choice, everything shifted. The air in the building felt lighter, as if the walls themselves had been waiting for me to decide. The woman's eyes lingered on me differently, less like a patient under her care, and more like a student ready to step into the world. The training changed too. It wasn't about learning the basics anymore. Now, it was about living. We went out more often into crowded places where we had to blend, not just walk unnoticed. Clothing stores, markets, even a library where we each had to check out a book under our new names. That part startled me, my new name. I had whispered it to myself in the mirror days earlier, testing the sound, waiting for it to click. When it did, it felt strange but warm, like a sweater that fit just right after years of wearing the wrong size. Hearing the librarian say it out loud, handing me the book with that name printed on the card, sent a shiver down my spine. It was real. Not just a thought or a practice. It was me, seen and recorded in the world. But realness also brought pressure. The world didn't stare at me, didn't call me out. But that didn't silence the voice in my head that whispered, what if they're all just being polite? What if they're laughing the second you leave? One afternoon, while the others were browsing clothes, I stood frozen in front of a display mirror in the store. The reflection showed me in a soft dress I had tried on, the fabric flowing down to my knees, light against my skin. I looked like I belonged there, like any other girl excited to see herself in something beautiful. But I couldn't move. My old self's voice hissed in my mind. You're pretending. They'll know. You don't deserve this. I wanted to rip the dress off, to run back into the fitting room and hide. But then Alina appeared beside me, adjusting her own jacket in the mirror. She caught my expression and said quietly, "You're hearing it, aren't you? The voice that tells you you're fake." I blinked at her, startled. She nodded knowingly. It never fully goes away, but you learn to answer back. Her reflection met mine in the mirror, steady and sure. Look at yourself and say it. Out loud. My throat tightened. Say what? That you're real. The words lodged in my chest like a stone. People were nearby, browsing, chatting. If I spoke, they might hear. But Alina's gaze held me, urging me. I took a shaky breath, staring at the girl in the mirror, and whispered, "I'm real." The old voice screamed in protest. "Fake, fake, fake." I said it again, louder this time. "I'm real." The shoppers didn't even glance at me. The world didn't collapse. And when I looked at my reflection, I saw her eyes shining with tears, but also with strength. That night, I carried the memory with me. For the first time, the old voice didn't feel stronger than mine. As the days passed, the woman pushed us further. Public speaking in small groups. Ordering food for the whole table. Introducing ourselves to strangers at a community event. Each task set my pulse racing, but each time I survived, I grew. And with growth came something I hadn't expected. Joy. It was in small things. The swing of my hair when I laughed. The way my hands moved when I spoke, fluid and expressive. The sound of my voice rising higher when I got excited, no longer strange, but vibrant. I began to see myself less as a stranger and more as me. Not a copy, not a mask, not a replacement. Just me, living in the form I had always secretly longed for. But the woman warned us one evening, her voice solemn. The world is not always kind. You will face moments when doubt doesn't come from within, but from outside. Strangers, family, friends. That is when you must stand strongest. Her words haunted me, because deep down I knew she was right. The real test wasn't in mirrors or training. It was still waiting for me, beyond these walls. And part of me wasn't sure I was ready. The day of the final test arrived, without warning. The woman gathered us in the main room, her face calm but grave, and I knew before she spoke that something was different. "You've each grown," she said. "You've spoken, walked, lived as yourselves. But now you must face the world beyond this place, not in practice, not in safe shadows, but fully. Alone." My breath caught. Alone. The others exchanged nervous glances, but no one protested. We all knew this was coming. My stomach nodded as she handed each of us a folded piece of paper. Mine trembled in my hands. Inside was a single line of instruction, handwritten in looping script. "Return to where you came from. Let them see you." The words nearly knocked the air out of me. My old world. My old life. The streets, the faces, the people who had known me only as him. That night, I barely slept. I lay on my cot staring at the ceiling, every muscle tight with fear. Would they recognize me? Would they laugh? Would they turn me away? By morning, I was shaking as I pulled on my clothes, jeans, a soft sweater, sneakers. Nothing dramatic. Just ordinary. The woman placed a steady hand on my shoulder as I prepared to leave. "Remember," she said, "you are not erasing him. You are carrying him. Let them see you, not as two people, not as a disguise, but as whole." I nodded, though my throat was too tight to speak. The city looked the same as before, bustling, busy, indifferent. But to me, every street corner screamed with memory. I traced the path back to my old apartment building, my old neighborhood, the place where I had lived as him. My hands trembled as I climbed the stairs. Every step echoed with ghosts. When I reached the door, I froze. My heart begged me to run. But the paper's words burned in my mind. "Let them see you." I raised my hand and knocked. The door opened slowly. My neighbor, an older woman who had known me for years, stood there. Her eyes met mine, then flicked briefly over my clothes, my hair, my face. For a split second, I thought she would frown, question, expose me. But she only smiled faintly, kind and curious. "Hello, dear. Can I help you?" My knees nearly gave out. She didn't recognize him. She saw me. Just me. I used to live here. I managed, my voice shaking but steady enough. I just wanted to see it again. She tilted her head, thoughtful.
Ah, yes.
There was a young man here, wasn't there? Quiet, kept to himself. Nice enough. My heart clenched, grief and relief colliding. She remembered him, but she didn't see him in me. He was a memory now, a story told in past tense. Yes, I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. He was here. The woman smiled gently, as if sensing my unspoken weight. Well, you're always welcome. Take care, dear. When the door closed, I stumbled down the steps, the world spinning around me. On the street, I pressed my hands to my face and sobbed, not from fear, not from shame, but from release. He was gone, and yet he wasn't. He lived in the memory of others, in the courage that had brought me here. But I was here now, breathing, living.
Real.
When I returned to the building, the woman and the others were waiting. My eyes were still red, my hands still shaking, but when she looked at me, I didn't flinch. "Well?" she asked softly. I took a deep breath, my voice clear and certain. "I'm real." The others smiled, their eyes shining, and for the first time, I felt no need to look in the mirror. I didn't need proof anymore. I had seen it in the world's eyes. I had felt it in my own. I had signed up to be a girl. But what I had truly signed up for was to be myself. And now, at last, I was